and breathe. Good evening, UK Crime Book Club. This is Jonathan Whitelaw, who writes as JD Whitelaw. I haven't even asked you if you've got your books with you.
I do have them. Yes.
Good. Okay, introduce yourself properly while I breathe.
This is the last of the professionalism. Trust me, it's all downhill from here. The fact that I came prepared and I had my books to hand, like I said, it will not last. I promise you.
Well. So go on, show them off.
Oh, sorry. Yes, there you go. Exactly, precisely my point. Proved within 15 seconds of me saying it. There you go. I am, if nothing else, consistent. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. It's a delight to be here. A fantastic group, obviously. Massive amounts of numbers and people that are regularly interacting. It's one of those things. Actually, I'm again diverging already. This is worse than a Billy Connolly joke, but it's always great to see when my phone pings and it's another massive discussion that's kicked off on the group, and that's it. And there isn't, for my money, there isn't enough book talk to a mass appeal. But I'm sure we'll get chatting about that later on. Anyway, back on point. My name is Jonathan Whitelaw. JD Whitelaw, Jonathan Whitelaw. My books, I've got I write the Hellcorp series of novels, which sees the devil long for a holiday, but usually first has to have to solve a mystery put to him by God, and various chaos ensues. So the first one's Hellcorp. The second one is The Man in the Dark. Now, these are actually, again, going back to the lack of professionalism, these are actually first editions. They are getting re-released. They're getting second editions with my publisher, Red Dog. And speaking in Red Dog, I also write the Parker Sisters novels, which are a cozy crime. So the first one, Banking and Murder, came out just before Christmas. And that's under JD Whitelaw, just to make a bit of a difference between the two of them. That follows the misadventures of three sisters from Glasgow of varying ages, who in Banking and Murder have to they run the Parkers, and they run Parker's investigations, and they normally look at kind of small time crimes and sort of infidelity and stuff like that. But in Banking on Murder, they're up to their necks in a murder case, and again, more chaos ensues. There's a theme here. It's chaos theory at its very worst. Trust me. But yes, that's me.
Your head must be a very interesting place.
How long have we got?
We've already got a couple of people saying hello. So hi, Leslie Field, and hello, Marion Todd. Marion was saying another Scottish author she's very excited to watch.
Absolutely. Marion actually's got again. As if I preordained this. Marion's actually on the front cover of Banking on Murder. She provided a wonderful quote, a highly entertaining slice of madcap murder, and she's heard it 1,000 times, I'm sure. But the $5 is in the post this time, Marion. I promise it's on its way. But yeah, I'm delighted. I should also say that I was utterly delighted to get a quote from Marion, who is a wonderful writer. And again, I'm not just saying that because she's in the room. I would say that anyway. I'm a big champion of her work.
Just here.
And pile them high. That's maybe not the best terminology, but yeah, she's a wonderful writer. I had the honour of actually covering her latest in the Bloody Scotland book club last month, April. And it was really, really good, and that's a fantastic new venture from Bloody Scotland. It's every month that they're discussing three writers. I felt quite lucky actually with our pick. We had Marion, we had November Road by Lou Barney, and Val McDermott's The Distant Echo. So it was very much three authors, really, really across the scope of crime, but also across the scope of various stages of their career. Marion obviously is a McIlvanney debut prize nominee, and then you've got Val, who's the doyen, or one of the doyens of British crime. So it was great. It was fantastic, and we got a lot of great feedback. But you don't want to hear me rabbit on all night. I'm sure you've got loads of questions.
No, I'm sure I do want to hear you rabbit on. It's kind of the point. It's always that moment where the authors are suddenly like, "Oh, but you don't want to hear me talking." Yes, I do. Nobody wants to hear me talking. Nobody.
Absolutely.
I waffle so much nonsense.
Not at all. Not at
No, I
all.
do.
Not at all.
Just ask Kaz, I do. So Marion said, "Good evening, Sam and Jonathan. I love the Parker sisters. I wonder why you opted for 3 women. Is there something about the connection between women that makes them better to write about? Also, my favour to you in the post."
Not at all. Well, hopefully the fivers will meet at some point. That'd be nice because it cancels each other out. That's proper economics there. A good question. Wouldn't expect anything less, Marion. But to be honest with you, no, I didn't. I mean, I didn't set out. I didn't set out to write 3 sisters. The characters just almost grew on their own. I know that feels like a bit of a cop out answer. The vague inspiration for for the Parker sisters novels was my mother-in-law and her 2 sisters. So they're from Northern Ireland, and they're very, very close. The sort of age dynamic's not quite as extreme as it is with the Parkers. You've got Martha, who's the sort of matriarch. She's 40, early 40s. You've got Helen in the middle, who's sort of around about 30, 31, and then Jerry, who's very much a late teens, early 20s, very, very start of her sort of university career and stuff. There isn't such a big difference between my mother-in-law and her sisters, but that relationship is very, very much that I was always fascinated by it. I grew up watching Only Fools and Horses, which is a sort of master stroke when it comes to...
One of my questions is going to be about who's going to reference something, but anyway, carry on.
I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens when I do something. It's happened countless times when I've got all my notes and the person that's been interviewed or on the panel, what have you, comes up with it. It's like, it took me ages that, and now there you go.
No. It's really
justice.
Just a slight reference. It's just
right.
You'll understand in a minute. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry. Big waffle.
Not at all. All of Fools Horses. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with it, and that's very much a kind of masterclass when it comes to having 3 generations of the one family all together, arguably in situations that they ordinarily wouldn't find themselves in. Well, of course it is. It's the nature of being a sitcom and stuff like that. Yeah. But I always loved it. I always loved that dynamic. I always loved that that intergenerational element of it. That, well, all 3 of those characters, Grandad, Del Boy, Rodney, and lastly, obviously, Uncle Albert and stuff like that. They all had their own things going, but they all somehow wound up together doing it. I always say that there's always one moment, there's always one scene in every episode where, if you took a screen grab of it, that's, it's the 3 of them together in some sort of situation. Sometimes it's with a prop and you know what it is, and other times it's just them in the flat or what have you. And that very much, I always loved that. I always loved that from John Sullivan as a writer and being able to do it. And that was partly why I wanted to do that sort of 3 generational element of it, because they're all sisters, but they're all very, very different people. They're all very, very different ages. But I mean, as far as kind of setting them up as being sisters, as opposed to 3 brothers or 2 brothers and a sister, 2 sisters and a brother, what have you, they just really came to me. Actually, it was a bit of luck. Yeah, it was just a bit of luck, and I was lucky enough to have them grow, and that actually probably more so than anything else that I've written. When it comes to the Parker sisters, I think the characters have grown a lot more on their own, almost without nudging. As I've worked through the plots and stuff, they very much kind of come into their own fore. Whereas sometimes maybe with other characters or other books that I've written, you've had to work at it a little bit, chip a little bit away, maybe think, would he say that? Would she do this? But not the Parkers. They're very, very much welcome visitors in my old noodle box.
So it wasn't difficult to keep the 3 of them separate from each other in your head as you were writing?
No, and well, No, because they are so different characters, and they are such different ages, and I think almost having them at those different ages and those different stages of their lives made it easier, because the situations that Jerry, for example, would find herself in, Helen maybe get it because she's sort of eight years older, but Martha would never find it, because she's 20 years older than her, she's 19, 20 years older than her. So she doesn't, she's not, she would never find herself out at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, staggering down the road, having come from a flat party, because, she doesn't have a lecture in the morning. She's got her own family. She's got the business to run and stuff like that. So in that sense, no. And I think also having those sort of differences between the ages, I think it helped. It gave them all enough breathing space. It gave them all enough breathing room to be their own people, almost. Again, just as a very, very brief tangent, I always remember. Again, I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, huge Doctor Who fan, and I remember hearing. I think it was Eric Sayward who was the script editor at the time. When Tom Baker retired, well, he didn't retire, but he moved. He left the role, and Peter Davison came in, and he inherited a cast that was quite inflated. The classic Doctor Who dynamic is you've got the Doctor and you've got one companion, maybe two, but at that point there were three companions in the show, and he remembered saying that some of the lines that you were coming out with, they could be spoken by any of those three. It didn't really matter, and that's a nightmare for me. Certainly, it's a nightmare for a lot of writers I know. Is that, well, if any line of dialogue can be said by any of the characters that you're playing with, then there's something wrong here. You need to give it a little bit more life. But yeah, good question.
I only watched one series of Doctor Who, and it was with Christopher Eccleston.
Well, that's a smashing series, though. He was brilliant. Very, 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 very much missed. But of course, there were. I think there were extenuating circumstances behind the camera that led to his exit, which he's only. I think he's doing more. I think he's doing more of the audio plays. Actually, I think he's signed up for a series of those, and the fans are quite. I've sort of drifted out of fandom actually over the last couple of years. Not through any through any particular reason or anything like that. But the last maybe sort of, I think the last time I tuned in, Peter Capaldi was in the role, or it just started being in the role. I think it's just one of those things. You sort of. There's so much great TV.
It wasn't one of my things, and
yeah.
I think for Christopher Eccleston, he was locally. He lived for a short while as a child in the area that I live in. So I think it was like a local lad.
Nice connection, thing. Yeah.
So I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember much about it, which is a bit random now. But it was a few years ago, so.
He's a great actor, brilliant actor. He was wonderful in that.
Manchester one's shorter than you'd think.
Oh, really? Oh, I always thought he was quite tall for some reason. I always thought he was.
Was he taller than I thought? See, waffle. I'm doing it again. I can't remember what I thought. His height surprised me in one way or another.
Right.
I'm going to have to Google. Google how tall Christopher Eccleston is, please.
Funnily enough, this is a great. This is something that I was lambasted with a couple of weeks ago in work. We've had people start on our team in work and things, and like I haven't met them in the flesh, so and I brought this up at a meeting. It's like, John Smith started, but I don't know how tall he is. Not that it would matter how tall John Smith is, but it's like,
you might have an idea in your head, though.
Exactly, and these are part of the human condition, is that everybody knows how tall their colleagues are, how short their colleagues are, that type of thing. If they drink tea or they drink coffee, if they bring cereal in with them, or are they a yogurt sort of person? I'm a right nosy bugger.
You're quite tall. I'm very short. I imagine that you're quite tall.
I'm 6'1" with my heels on, and 6 foot without my heels on. So yeah, it's I've always been tall, much to my chagrin at times, but other times it's been all right. It all depends, doesn't it? It's all relative, I used to have to duck. There was a HMV in Argyle Street in Glasgow. I can't remember if it's still open or not, but they used to have a downstairs section where all the CDs were. And
I can
there was
see where this is going, but go ahead.
They had steps, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like a purpose-built building. It was like an old, it was old turn of the century building, and they used to have, you would have the token sort of black and white stripe tape above it, but time and time and time again. At one point I was in there every week. I didn't smash my head against it every week, obviously. Well, not that I can remember. Maybe I did. maybe I probably did. I just can't remember. But there was more than a few times where I entered the CD section doing this. Ow. Yeah. There you go.
I've got to tell you, at least you expect it, so you probably hold back a bit.
Yeah.
When you're 5 foot tall and you whack your head off something, you never expect to bang your head. You really, really crack your head. It's like awful.
But that is the opposite is like, see if I go to a supermarket and I can't reach something off the top shelf, then I'm like, oh.
Kaz has said he is 5'11" 3/4, so he was shorter than I thought. I was just second guessing myself because everyone seems tall to me, as Kaz has kindly pointed out. Huge to me.
5'11" 3/4. That sounds like someone who really, really wants to be 6 foot tall. But they're not quite there. They just can't. Just can't get over the edge.
You need your heels.
I need my heels, my magic heels. Though I'm using them this weekend, but they can have it after that. Yeah, absolutely.
So Kaz says hello to us. Hello, and she asks,
hello.
Why write about the devil? Now I know I've asked you this before, but it's a great answer, so I'm going to ask you again.
Thank you very much. No
Great
pressure.
Question, Kaz.
No pressure. I think it was a sort of combination of things. I think the last time we chatted about it, one of the things that I always said and always have said is that I never ever thought that I was clever enough to write a crime novel.
Which is astonishing when you read them.
Well,
you didn't think you could.
Very, very kind of you. Very kind of you. I was about to say, cue the invariable jokes. Well, you still haven't written the one, Jonathan, which is perfectly within the rules. But one of the issues that I always had with it was that in crime fiction we've had every sort of detective, every single one. We've had workaholics, alcoholics. We've had sociopaths. We've had know-it-alls. We've had people that know nothing. And there are so many great writers doing such great work with crime. Quite frankly, I was quite intimidated, and it's crime readers, as we all are. Every one of us tonight, everyone in the book group obviously is a crime reader, and we are spoiled for choice when it comes to these types of things, and for good reason, because there are so many great writers doing such great work. And I think that I'd always thought about that and thought, do you know what? I don't know if I could find a character original enough that would keep me interested enough to keep going with something, to take on such a challenge. And then I got thinking about, talking about anti-heroes and stuff like that, and I thought, well, who's the ultimate anti-hero? Who's at the furthest end of that? Who's someone who is so anti that they could never be the hero, really? And there was only really one answer. And it's not. It's not from any sort of I don't really come from an agnostic background, so there was no kind of preaching element to it. And I thought, well, the devil, and really that was it. That was the spark. That was the spark that I had this character, I had this central character, and there was always, again, it was one of those things that I didn't want to just do a straight up. This is going to sound terrible. A straight up pointy horns with a goatee mustache. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have that sort of character. Again, going back to my love for sort of kind of classic British comedy. Like I love those characters that British TV's always done so well. The sort of the pathetic little man, so your Basil Fawlty characters, your Captain Mannering characters, Alan Partridge's, these characters are so pompous believe so firmly in themselves that they are right, but are chopped down at every stage, but also are endearingly loved by millions and tens of millions of people and generations. And I always loved that. I always loved having that sort of authority figure chopped right down to size. And I knew that I wanted to do that if I was going to carry on with this novel, or I was going to write this novel. And hopefully I did. I mean, or hopefully I continue to do with the series. It's some of the moments that I get the most enjoyment out of with the Hellcorp books is when I've got the devil in full flow and he can be brought down just with a look or a chat. There's one thing that is probably the thing that I'm the most proud of when it comes to when it comes to the Hellcorp books is that the devil can't read. He can't read human text. He just can't do it. He can't do it. He's completely illiterate when he's in sort of human form. And that, of course, when you're writing a crime novel, invariably you're going to get something that has to be read. And when coming up with ideas to think about how he's going to either have to ask for it, or he's very, very sensitive about it. He's really sensitive about it. Here's this great omnipotent evil who can do anything that he wants, really, when he's in his own realm, or indeed when he's got his full powers and what have you. But he wouldn't be able to read, a takeaway menu, or the exit, the outdoor and stuff like that. And I take great delight in that, in writing those scenes. And it's really, really good fun. I love it. Yeah, it's brilliant. Did that answer the question? I kind of felt I was rambling on for so long that I forgot what the question was.
All I can think when you say Basil Fawlter, the first image is always him with the branch and the car.
Yeah. I
mean, there's a million that we could go on about. But what I was going to ask you before, complete segue into nonsense, because I've got there's two that I want to go for, but I'll go for first. When you set the HQ in Edinburgh, how was that received? That must have been gleefully.
Well, funnily enough, I used to stay in Edinburgh. I used to live in Edinburgh. Wonderful city, beautiful city. And Arthur's Seat is a lovely place, and it's stunning views of a stunning city from a stunning point. And funnily enough, I actually came across an old notebook of mine where I found I put it on Twitter actually. I found the original idea for Hellcorp. It was actually two ideas that I kind of crammed into one. And I remember writing it, and actually it was a way back in 2015, I think it was. And there's a line at the start of it when the devil's talking about what he wants Hellcorp to look like and where it's going to be. And he says that he wants it to look like the Trump Tower in New York. Now, this was, and I promise you, this was years, nobody knew, least of all me, what was on the horizon at that point. It's that sort of art imitating life. Or indeed life imitating art, which is frightening.
Maybe you should write for The Simpsons.
Well, there you go. Exactly. If anybody's listening from 20th Century Fox and you're in need of anybody, I would be delighted to.
Be a shoe-in.
It was it was strange. It was strange because actually, again, kind of talking about that art imitating life, and life imitating art. Not long after Hellcorp came out in 2018, there was an article in the Edinburgh Evening News, which is the local paper. They're very, very a great local paper, very, very well loved. But it was their front page splash, and it was about these pagan ruins that had been found on Arthur's Seat, including this massive slab with a huge pentagram on it. And that in itself was great news. But what was brilliant about the story was that it was all cordoned off when someone had found it. I can't remember why. I can't remember if they were doing archaeological digs up in the site anyway. They cordoned it off, and then they came back the next night or the next morning, and it had gone. It had vanished. And to this day, nobody knows where this massive pentagram carved bit of rock went. But I had a bit of a chuckle because I think Hellcorp came out in the June. July, sorry, of 2018, and this must have been about the August September time. It was uncanny. So yes, it's nice. It's nice to see that there's clearly a paganistic, Satanistic community in Edinburgh, and I have, by extension of it, paid a subconscious tribute to that community. So there you go. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to have fans.
Marion says, could I just point out that Jonathan's chair neck rest is a bit like the devil's cloak?
That is, Mary's not the first person that's pointed this out. I have it's purely ergonomic. It's totally ergonomic, but it has been pointed out that there is a throne-like quality to it that I can assure you was completely subconscious.
So you're not going to announce in book 3?
No, book 3, but absolutely, yeah, book 3. It's announced.
That it's you.
No, it's not me. No. It's purely fictional. Oddly enough, as a very, very quick segue, I was doing an event for The Man in the Dark, a couple of weeks after it came out, and there was a woman that asked a question at the end, open up the floor and stuff like that. And she said the tagline. There was a tagline on it. I don't think I've got a tagline in the version of it, because I got a wonderful quote from Joe Spain. But there used to be a tagline on the sort of the proof covers, and it was the devil's back in the underworld's going to hell. And the woman put her hand up and she said, are you not tempted, frightened your tempted fate with a tagline like that? And I said, beg your pardon? And she went, the devil's back, but he's never really been gone. So I said, that's very kind of you. It's nice to know that I've got readers and stuff like that, and it's only been a year and a bit since. And she went, no, I'm serious. You're not frightened that you're gonna, kind of tempt fate? And there was a woman in the front row who was sitting in front of her, and her face went white, and I'm talking about it drained of color. And she's like, and I said, no matter how many times I explained that I was agnostic, there was absolutely no preachiness intended about it. My novels, my Hellcorp novels, aren't intended to be any sort of a commentary on organized religion in any way, shape, or form. She just was not buying it. She was not accepting what I was saying and stuff. And eventually, the kind of host sort of ushered me off the stage, said, "Oh, that's it for tonight. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming by." And the weird thing was, the spooky thing was, like I was making mental notes when I was up on on the stage, to go watch where she goes. You got to be polite. You've got to respect people's wishes, obviously, and that's entirely what I do with these types of things. But the spooky thing was, I couldn't see her when it finished, and she must have just either vanished into the ether or probably went to the pub. But yeah, it was something else. And that was the thing. I didn't. I mean, this might sound silly, but because I wrote it under because I write the Hellcorp books under the pretenses that we've already talked about tonight as crime novels, that just so happen to have Satan as the main character. I never thought that it would, that would even be a thing. Naively of me that it would attract those sorts of questions. But there you go. Yeah, right.
Absolutely good. Kaz says she can't watch Doctor Who because when she was little, her brother told her all the monsters were real.
That's terrifying.
No, there's a spoiler alert for people.
Exactly. That's terrifying. I don't think I don't think I would watch it if I thought they were real. Yeah, absolutely. That's okay. You have my sympathies.
Pat Forsyth, hi Pat, says hello, and she's sorry that she's late. Sitting quietly at the back of the room, always welcome, Patsy. We're still on the Daleks. I had nightmares about the Daleks roaming around the corridors in my school, says Marion Todd. Interesting.
Well, funnily enough, they used to have in Waterson's on Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow. They used to have a replica, and they had a huge refurb, maybe probably about 5-10 years ago now, and this thing was taken away. And that was fine. I went in like the first time. I think I was still at uni at the time, and I was up in the fiction section. I was walking between the sections, and I turned the corner, and it was there, full size, full, working lights and all the rest of it. And just for a split second, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to get everybody out of this building because that thing will kill us all,
And
And
how old were you?
it was only a split second, but it was a genuine terror.
Genuine thing.
It was a genuine thing, as in like I was all tingly when when I calmed down and thought, oh, they've brought the Dalek back, yeah, I think it was the size of it. I don't think I'd ever seen. I don't think I'd ever seen it up close, so real. But it was the idea that it was actual size, and you always kind of think with these things it's a prop, but when you don't expect it and you walk around them, because, and again, that image, the image of these things is totally ingrained in our sort of popular consciousness, that it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I was just glad that my first thought was that I've got to get everybody out, as opposed to leg it yourself, Jonathan. It's every man for themselves. Yeah, I was quite proud of myself.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think so. I think so. I'm proud of myself.
We'd have that response.
Well, I hope I'd have it again. I mean, I don't trust myself to have it again. That's the type of person I am.
No, go with your first instinct. It was fine. It was absolutely fine. Anya says, lovely to see a Red Dog author here.
Yes, and you.
All sorts. Anya's constantly got pictures of everything that she's reading that she's bought from Goldsboro and wherever else.
Wonderful.
On a Twitter page. Big stacks of signed books.
Wonderful. More of it, please.
Kaz has said, it's a tall person thing. My hubby has a fear of ceiling fans. He's very tall. I forget. I know he's 6. Oh, he's really tall.
Blimey. Bloody hell.
I can't think exactly how tall. I should know. She said it to me. I should know. I'm going to go back to before you were talking about Only Fools and Horses, and one of the questions I'd written down, it was just something that made me think of it. And so tell everybody what your day job is.
I'm a journalist.
Tell everyone, yeah.
I'm a journalist.
So you covered, and I got this from your Amazon profile, radioactive waste.
Yes,
which led me to think about Only Fools and Horses.
Yes, absolutely.
So for anyone who hasn't seen it, you've missed
Mother Nature's son.
That's not what we're going to talk about.
Mother Nature's son, yep.
So, dare I ask what the story on radioactive waste was?
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably not amusing, and I'm not trying to
mock
it.
It was.
It's probably
it
not
was.
good.
I wish it had been my Pulitzer moment, in which I uncovered, all this secret radioactive waste that had been buried somewhere horrific, and no, far from it. What happened was I was freelancing at the time, and I hadn't left the Scottish Parliament. I worked in politics before that. I hadn't left the Scottish Parliament all that long, and I was sitting up as a freelancer and essentially taking any and all commissions that I could. So I got this phone call one afternoon, quite randomly, didn't recognise the number, and it was the press officer of now I can't remember the name of the organisation, which is dreadful. But you're talking about maybe about 10 years ago now, actually.
I remember 10 days ago, never mind 10 years ago.
Here. And it was the press officer for this organisation who essentially run a 4-year conference, a conference every 4 years that brings together all the kind of top people in radioactivity. Not like, the Hawke and Spider-Man and stuff like that, but it's actual kind of proper scientists, proper scientists, people that deal with the waste, people that, every element of the industry. Anyway, that year, in fact, that weekend, the conference was being held in Glasgow. It was being held at the Armadillo, down by the Clyde, and the PR phoned me up and said, Jonathan, would you like to cover it? We're looking for as much publicity as we can. Your name came up in whatever circle it was that they were dealing in, and they said, would you like to cover it? So I was like, yeah, absolutely. What do you need from me? So they organised all my passes and stuff like that. I was down there within about 20 minutes, and I got introduced to people that must have been among the most intelligent in the world that were dealing with all this. And the one thing that I always remember from it is they had like it wasn't quite like a petting zoo, but because there weren't any animals, but it was like a sort of like an information. One of they'd completely taken over the conference center, and one of the halls was set up entirely for kids. So it was like, putting to bed all the myths about radioactive waste and radioactivity and nuclear energy and all the rest of it. And I was taken round it by this guy who was actually retiring. He was an old professor. I think he was an old Oxbridge professor or something. Again, one of the cleverest men on the planet. And there's all these kids playing with like fake uranium rods and stuff. And it was quite bizarre because like this was like the Olympics of radiation essentially. And one of the things that he said to me, I always remember it. He said, the whole point of stuff like this is that the kids, the future generations are going to have to grow up and realize that, this is a viable energy source and it's not as dangerous as it was 30 years ago with Chernobyl and previously and all the rest of it. Now, I mean, of course it is. It's entirely dangerous, but, and they had an agenda to try and promote that it was it was a lot safer. But, I couldn't think of any other, and even since I couldn't think of any other industry or any other setup that would go to that massive expense and have it. I got to chat to the CEO of the organization, and he was a bit less sort of tweed jacket with a pipe and one of those beards that doesn't have a moustache, proper open university. This guy was like a kind of businessman, and he said exactly the same thing. He said that was the big problem, was that they just couldn't get the publicity, they just couldn't get the press, because it's still got that sort of radioactive boogeyman image to it. I don't know if any of my editorial changed that. Probably not. I suppose we could take a straw poll. Do people still think that you get three-eyed fish? I think because you probably still do get three-eyed fish. It's not. It's a very, very messy industry. But it was fascinating, and to get it only a matter of weeks after going freelance and doing some proper journalism and speaking to all these fantastic people. It was fantastic. It was really, really good fun. It was brilliant.
I didn't honestly know where that story was going to go, but I was just drawn to it because I thought, what a thing to have covered.
That's it. Yeah, I've been very lucky. I have been very lucky, and I know how lucky I am to have covered all the stuff. It's not always good, It's not always been good stuff. Far from it, but a lot of it's been good. I've worked every major election, local council elections, referendums and stuff like that. I've worked every one of them over the last 8-9 years, through the night, and then just recently the Scottish elections, which was over the weekend. Some real tragic stuff in there as well. I mean, I did the Cameron House fire, the big hotel fire. I broke that story. I was the first one to report on it when it was happening that morning, which ended up being 2 people dead, and then all the other stuff that's just gone on to be pretty awful. But it's part of the gig. Unfortunately, being a journalist is that you don't get to pick and choose what's good news and what's bad news. You just have to. Yeah. You've got a job to do, so you've got to do it.
Do you have a favourite happy story? Is that like asking me to pick your favourite child?
I've only got the one child, so
exactly.
that's an easy one.
To say, yeah.
That's an easy one. Favourite happy story. I got the chance to interview. I've had the chance to interview a whole load of people. I got the chance to interview Ian Glenn, the Scottish actor, Ser Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones. I think that's his most famous role. And actually, it was for
I do know who he is.
It was for Game of Thrones. It was just before the 5th series aired, and I got the chance to interview him for the Scots magazine, and he was lovely. He was a lovely guy, and it was one of those ones where because it was being run by HBO, I was briefed by about 40 people beforehand. You have a strict 10 minutes, Jonathan. That's it, because he was doing media for everyone, and I 10 minutes. But I was on the phone to him for about 40 minutes. We just got chatting, and he was such a lovely guy, and I could have written 100 stories from what he. just about what he did with Game of Thrones. He always told me, and it always reminded me when I watched it after he told me it. Like, he said that what they normally do is, or what they normally did, because the show's finished now, obviously, spoilers. That
I knew that.
The actors used to essentially roll around in the dirt before they would start filming, so that's why they always look so filthy. Is that they literally rolled around in the dirt, in the mud, and like you just couldn't. That's why it always looked so authentic, because it wasn't being applied as makeup. It was them going out for 10 minutes before they start shooting and having a proper roll around. So you can imagine what the set was like. God knows what you would have stumbled upon. But he always said that he was a lovely man, really nice man, and that interview always sticks with me, because he was so nice and he was so easy to chat to. And I went into that thinking, God, this guy's a massive star and it's a massive show and it's only going to get bigger. And I'm getting told all the time that I've only got 10 minutes. I need to be quite quick, but gentleman, an absolute gentleman.
I love it when things go well.
It doesn't happen all that often, unfortunately, but when it does, it's always very, very nice. It's always very, very
lucky. Let's do my ritual of touch wood. Been very lucky. So
touch wood. Yeah, absolutely.
We've got all sorts. I was scrolling to see who some of the people were that I couldn't tell who it was. So we've just got Facebook users. So David Gilchrist, our lovely founder, and Kaz's dad, says hi to us both.
Good evening.
Kaz says, do you like the Sandman Slim series? I have no clue what that is. Do you?
I've heard of it. I've not read them. I am aware of them. I actually think I came across them when the Hellcorp novels came out, and it came up as suggested for you on things like Goodreads and Amazon. And actually, it's like anything else that everybody in here knows, that you end up with a to be read pile that's taller than your house, and I've actually just not gotten round to them. But I think one of the one of the reasons that I haven't probably got around to them is because I've been writing the Parker sisters books, and I'd taken that sort of break from the Hellcorp novels. But I'm going back to them because we'll have edits and stuff like that for the third one this year, and then the fourth one next year, which is really exciting. Can't wait.
It's exciting. I
Delighted.
Can't wait.
Absolutely delighted.
Good. So have you got dates for them, or is it too soon?
No, nothing firmed. I don't want to say that it might be sometime when it goes. I know that I've got I think we're aiming. I don't have any dates for the reissues for Hellcorp and the Man in the Dark, but I think we're aiming towards the end of the year for Natural Disorder, which is the third. In the Hellcorp.
What a great title that is.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope it lives up to the title. It's what I'm terrible with titles. I am dreadful for titles, and I try to get that out as many times as I can, so for the people who are invariably disappointed with the titles of my novels, at least they can go, oh well, he admitted it, so it's fine. But I was delighted when I came up with that. I was really delighted with it because
it's really good.
It kind of hopefully it kind of ties in with the kind of off the walls nature of the series. But in the books they talk about what the natural order is, and it very much isn't that in the third book. So it's it's exciting. I'm excited. I'm really delighted that Red Dog have continued the Hellcorp books, because they've always been. I've always thoroughly enjoyed writing them, as I thoroughly enjoyed writing the Parker sisters, as we've chatted about. But I'm glad it's continuing with another two books. Yeah, delighted.
Hear to that. TG, who is one of our admins, and she writes as TK Gearing. She's just gorgeous. She says hi to us both, and do you ever take a breath?
Never. Never. No, I don't. I can't. I have. Usually, if I take a breath, then I forget where I am and what I'm doing, and oh God, I've got novels to write. Christ, I've got better get back to it. Yeah. Okay. Listen. I told you at the start of the event that it wasn't going to be professional in any way, shape, or form. But I used up all my professionalism in the first 30 seconds. Unfortunately, there you go.
I think we lasted 15 seconds and we were laughing through that.
All right. Well, there you go then. It's a new record. New record either way.
We have fun. Fun's good. We need some fun.
We do.
Leslie Fields says, Jonathan, if the Corpse books were filmed, who would you like to play the devil?
Oh dear.
Ooh.
What a question. What a question.
Have you ever actually thought about it? Because we have had authors say, do you know what? I can't picture it.
Well,
Can't picture a person as them.
The thing about the devil is, and again, I don't know if this is a sort of subconscious thing. He looks different in every book because he's given a new sort of human body. So, you could have multiple actors. He even looks different
Probably
between.
like the Doctor, though, where it's
yeah, exactly.
Other people see him in a different way.
Absolutely, absolutely. That one actor that kind of cropped up, I think. And I've heard a couple of people have suggested it to me, because it's not really something that I've never given a great deal of thought to it. It all, because that's the thing. Like when I sit down and start a new Hellcore book, I don't really know what he looks like. I don't know what he's going to look like. But again, that's mostly because when it comes to him finding out what he looks like, that's usually a great opportunity for me to chop him back down to size, because invariably he's always the ugliest of the troop. That's just his.
And to
that's
be
just
fair,
his
I
luck.
didn't think you were going to have an answer to this. As I started reading it and saw where the question ended, I thought, oh, okay. But go
on. Ethan Hawke.
Right, okay.
Ethan Hawke, I think, was the name that was put to me many years ago as to how they envisioned them. But I've always seen so in the second one, he's a bit more. I think he's a bit taller, and Paul Bettany, for example, I think is a wonderfully underused actor. I know that he's in WandaVision, he's the Vision and stuff like that, and he's got that kind of Marvel element. He's in Star Wars now and stuff. But actually, up until when he was in Star Wars and Marvel, I think he was a kind of wonderfully underused actor, and very, very distinctive looking.
Genuinely can't picture him. I know I'd know what he looked like if I saw him, but I cannot picture what he looks like.
He's very, very distinctive looking. He's quite angular. He's and he's a wonderful actor as well. And I think I've always thought that he might make quite a good central character. It all depends, really. It all depends. Like I said, I don't go into each of the novels thinking what's he going to look like, because, like I said, it tends to be a great opportunity to stick the boot in.
Just Googled him. Okay, yeah. See what you mean.
Thank you. Wonderful actor. A wonderful actor.
Yeah, such a changing face, which is ideal.
Absolutely.
Ooh,
there you go. It keeps the franchise going, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It's the old Doctor Who thing that's been going 60 odd years. And it's still going. So, and if we writers are nothing else, we are desperate to be keep being fed.
Fed and watered.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pat says, met you, John, when you were interviewing Anthony O'Neill and again playing footy at Bloody Scotland 2019.
Yes, I've still got the bruises. Bruised ego will never heal, but I've still got the bruises in my ankles from a whole host of terrible tackles, mostly caused by me. But there you go. Yeah, that was great. That was brilliant. That was bar none the hottest September weekend ever in the history of Scotland. And I was sweating buckets, as was everybody, right enough. But there's a picture of me with the team being given a pep talk from Ian Rankin at the side of the pitch at halftime, and I think this might be the first time that the details of that pep talk have been divulged. Essentially, what he said was, "You should probably drink more water, you guys, and lay off the fags and the booze." And we were all like, "Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks for telling us that." 45 minutes into the game, with another 45 minutes still to play. It was bless him.
Pat's saying that she used to lock herself in the bathroom when Doctor Who came on, or hid behind the couch. She's been scarred for life. And Kaz is telling me that James, her husband, is 6'6".
All right, well,
so
perfect. This has been great. This has been a fantastic question and answer session, because I've learned so much. I never learn anything with these types of things. I'm usually the one causing the chaos that people have got to go away and Google afterwards. This is fantastic. I'm loving this.
I Google Paul Bettany, and I don't see myself watching Game of Thrones. That was the show we talked about, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. See, I can't even remember. Maybe at some point, I don't know. My daughter tells me it's great, but
it is to a point. But that's all I'm saying.
Read Crime and watch Only Fools and Horses and Tipping Point
You can't.
Frasier.
There's too much good stuff. Too much good stuff. People need to stop making good stuff. There you go. I've said it. Please stop, everyone. Stop writing great books. Stop making great TV shows and films. Just stop it.
Is there any way to mute you? No. No. Bad Jonathan. So Will Templeton, I've just joined. Sorry, been busy. My question: are you Scottish?
Yes. Well, only half. Yeah. He's yes.
He's also very tall, actually. Will's. I love Will. He's one of our admins. I've got one of his books. I normally have the admin's books behind me, but I've been faffing. So I've got Peter James and C.L. Taylor and Julie Anderson.
Nice.
Behind me.
That's a nice mixture.
So,
I have a lovely blank wall. We only moved in October, but there you go. Thoroughly embarrassing.
I need more bookshelves. There was an excuse. There's no longer an excuse. Nope. Will you be doing your Desert Island book spot at Bloody Scotland this year? Asks Marion Todd. I'm
not sure yet. Hopefully. They've been wonderful fun. I got the chance to do it in person in 2019. Remember all that? Remember when we used to be able to meet each other in the same room? That was great. That was the first one. And then we did a virtual one last year, which again was still really, really good. It felt almost like a bit more of a kind of vindication for me, because I was a bit worried, as I think everyone to do with Bloody Scotland, and indeed, listen, any event, you guys, I'm sure, are exactly the same, is that you kind of worry that you'll lose a little bit of that atmosphere because we're sat as two faces on a screen. But again, with you guys,
I don't know how you do this kind of thing live, as in like in front of people. I would be dripping and
not at all.
Oh no!
Not at all. You're amongst friends. You're always amongst friends.
Doesn't make any difference. I'm
you are. But that's the thing. I mean, you guys have been doing a fantastic program through all of lockdown and no doubt into the future. And I am genuinely humbled.
Don't tell anyone. It's just that this is an absolute bloody dream.
But listen, that's it. And it comes across. It does genuinely, and I am genuinely humbled to be a part of it tonight. But with the Bloody Scotland stuff, it was great to see, and they're a great bunch at Bloody Scotland. They really are, and I'm excited to see what they do for the programme this year and stuff, and beyond. I mean, we've got I Write going on at the moment up here in Glasgow, which is the kind of early in the year version of it. It's a wee bit later this year. It's normally kind of around about March, I think it is. But again, we've all had to cope. We've all had to adjust. I remember before all of this, driving through Edinburgh and doing events and stuff like that, and getting to meet actual people in real life that we've just not been able to do over the last 18 months for good reason. Don't get me wrong. It's for the very, very best of reasons. But the sooner we're all back together in the same room and having a bit of fun, then the better.
I like that. I like that idea a lot. We've only got 5 minutes left,
Oh, blimey.
It's absolutely flown. Pat did say he played for Scotland 2019 against Mark Billingham at Bloody Scotland. I assume you are the he.
I was one of the many he's that were on the team. I think there was a couple of she's as well. So it was it was tough going.
Really good?
That's not really for me to say, because I'm terrible.
Enough. Yeah, that was a mean question.
I'm terrible, and it might end up me getting banned or something if I said that someone was really good and actually in fact they're terrible.
I'll move on really, really quickly.
I'll tell you. I mean, I was awful, and so there you go. That's it, isn't it? So I
often ask daft questions. It's not like me to ask an
almost the only mean questions the one you don't ask. Question. There you go. That was one of my favorite things I learned from, when I started being a journalist. The only daft question is the one you don't ask.
Yeah, you've not spent much time with me yet. Annie says the only right answer to any question about actors is always Chris Hemsworth.
Absolutely. Here.
That's a winky face at the side of it.
Here. What a talent.
Of got Chris McDonald says, "Hi JD."
Good evening, Chris. Lovely to hear from you,
Like Chris
as always.
McDonald. So while we've got Chris, why don't you tell us how you came to be a part of Red Dog?
So I was doing a review work. So I do a lot of review work for the Sun and anywhere else that'll have me. And I got chatting to Sean and Red Dog when probably about 2 years ago. Actually, it doesn't feels a lot longer. Well, it would do if you were involved with me. Obviously, everybody always says that things feel a lot longer when I'm around. Time drags. But I was doing a lot of review work for them. I had the idea for the Parker sisters kicking about. I spoke to Sean. I said to him, "Look, I've got this idea. I know that you guys do a bit of cozy crime. Would you be interested in it?" I sent him the first 5 chapters. He looked at it, came back to me that day, or I think it was the next day, and said, "We absolutely love it. What else have you got from it?" And I was signed up to a 3-book deal. So the second one is out in August. It's penciled in for August. And that'll be that's the next big thing on the radar. I keep saying August, like August is
it's really not that
ages
far.
away. It's not. It's like 3 months away.
May.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was it, and I'm absolutely delighted. I cannot praise them enough. I cannot praise the team enough. I cannot praise the community enough of fellow writers like Chris and everybody else. Genuinely, it does genuinely feel like a family, and really glad to be a part of. And I'm allowed to write about the devil and the Parker sisters on a day-to-day basis. It's very privileged.
It's all so good. Will Templeton, I'm half Scottish to the top half. I mean, William, come on, be serious.
Don't go there.
Leslie Field says Paul B. So Paul Bettany was my choice. Spooky.
Lovely. There you go.
Nice.
See, I was going to say he moves in mysterious ways, but that's the wrong half, isn't it? That's the other side of the coin, isn't it?
We are literally, we've got 2 minutes left, and just at this point I've realised that the beautiful image, just show us, my mind's gone blank, the new book, In Murder, Banking on Murder, thank you.
Yeah.
My mind suddenly just froze.
That's okay.
That was supposed to be the cover image for our interview, but
that's quite right.
My husband will not be pleased to know that it's actually a picture of me and him that's just come up when I've looked.
Oh, lovely.
Whoops.
Lovely.
So
that's
sorry
a lot more friendly.
Gorgeous cover. It's just beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Everyone a quick reminder of your books and where they
Certainly,
can buy them.
Absolutely. No problem at all. Hellcorp and the Man in the Dark. These are the Hellcorp series. Like I said, there are new editions coming later on this year. Second edition coming later on this year, and Banking on Murder, which is the Parker sisters. That's the first of the Parker sisters books. That's out right now. They're all out just now, and you can get them from all good bookstores, Amazon, and probably a couple of bad bookstores as well, I'm sure.
No such thing.
No such thing. That's the right answer.
Absolutely no such thing as a bad bookstore. Any bookstore is good. Just before we finish, where did the name Parkers come from for the Parker sisters?
Gosh, I don't know. I told you I was bad at titles. I'm just as bad at names. Again, that's the thing. Like we said at the start of the show, the Parkers genuinely just popped into my head one day. They just grew completely organically, and it just fitted. It just fitted. It's the same with the first names as well. Martha, Helen, and Jerry. It just rolled off the tongue. They just worked. Yeah. Incredible, isn't it? It's kind of frightening. I'm frightened by it anyway.
It works. Do not question.
Absolutely.
Do not question the genius within.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to blush now.
Anya's dropped a link in for reddogpress.co.uk for Banking on Murder. So thank you, Anya.
Thank you very much.
Everybody thinks I'm getting Anya's name wrong because it's written as Anna, but I do know Anya and it is Anya. So I do want to clarify that I'm not just calling her the name.
Nicely covered. Nicely covered. Nice.
Because I often say hello to her and I think people think I'm a bit mad, which, one doesn't necessarily go against the other. But thank you, Waffle. See, this is why she
Not at all. Listen, you've just listened to me drone on for the last hour, so you are forgiven all of your sins. Trust me.
Hardly a chore.
Not at all.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all the members as well and admins
Yes,
for
thank you very
joining
much.
us. It's been lovely.